Hello, my name's Connor Nelson, and for my informational interview assignment, I chose to investigate the competencies, work-life balance, and overall expectations when working as a medical specialist after attaining a 4-year degree in medicine. Specifically, I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Roland Segal. Dr. Segal is co-founder, chief executive officer, and head psychiatrist at Scottsdale Mental Health and Wellness Institute, as well as a clinical assistant professor of psychiatry with the University of Arizona. He has extensive experience in the field of medicine as a whole, as well as the field of psychiatry, in which he also specializes in general and forensic psychiatry. Initially, before the interview, I had assumed that there would be a wider range of difference between the competencies of, say, somebody who wanted to specialize in a surgical subspecialty versus a psychiatric subspecialty. But Dr. Segal made that plain that it was not at all true, that oftentimes there are people who initially had an internal medicine or surgical subspecialty in mind, and that it may end up being the case that they end up specializing in psychiatry. Like all other medical subspecialties, psychiatry relies upon the same background education in medicine. So being that Dr. Segal is a very driven individual, the expectations and requirements for somebody in his position are very substantial. He is not only a practitioner at his clinic, but he is the chief executive officer. So he not only oversees the treatment of patients, but also the management of his employees. At the very least, one is expected to have a basic medical education in the form of a 4-year medical degree, and beyond that, clinical specialization, 4+ years in fellowship and residency, as well as additional clinical experience in a similar environment, i.e. a mental health facility. Potential candidates are expected to have certain personality traits. They're not dramatic. They have initiative, they start a task, and they follow through without being guided. In particular, they need to be very organized. They're able to delegate tasks on an order of importance, such that they are able to best manage their time without having their hand held by Dr. Segal. And there are significant benefits as well as drawbacks. In his position, it can be quite heavy, his work-life balance, although the benefits, according to him, outweigh the negatives. He spends his time 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. at a mental health facility as a practitioner. And from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., he works at his clinic, Scottsdale Mental Health and Wellness Institute, both as the chief executive officer and the head psychiatrist. According to him, this was more than worth it, not only because of the lifestyle he's able to provide his family and the organization skills providing him with the time to spend with his family, but that the gratitude he receives from his patients, the respect he receives in his profession, and the reimbursement are all well worth his position, despite the fact that there is also a significant background of education that is necessary to work in his position. As for how the interview was conducted and how the general flow of the interview went, it was quite clear that Dr. Segal has no time for nuance. He is a very direct person, as he is incredibly good at managing his time. He gauges his responses incredibly accurately, and when necessary, asks for clarification about a question such that he can deliver the most accurate response. It was also quite interesting from a perspective of career development that we led on to a tangent where he described how he was led into the field of psychiatry from the perspective of Holland's career development theory, I found this particularly interesting because Dr. Segal spoke about how initially he wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, that he worked as a phlebotomist, and after meeting a few orthopedic surgeons, pursued a degree in medicine. And in his clinical rotations in orthopedic subspecialties, he found that it actually brought out the worst in his personality. As he puts it, he has a very type A personality, and he didn't like, per se, how it brought certain negative traits in his personality out. So then, after a reevaluation of this, he decided to pursue psychiatry instead. I've found this incredibly interesting that oftentimes when someone like me is interested in pursuing medicine, it's not always clear until you get your hands on in the field what sort of specialty you're going to be working on. You never know how that's going to bring certain things out or where that's going to lead. And in his case, it was a very drastic change. But now he's incredibly successful, very well adjusted, and meaningfully engaged in his career. And I also found it particularly admirable, his ability to manage his time very well. He was a very organized and to the point person, and it made for a very straightforward and clear interview process.